Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Starseed Immersion Podcast. Today, I have with us Krys, and Krys is a guide, a teacher of ether physics. He's the founder of Cosmic Frequency, where he's the host of his online soul enriching Cosmic Academy. And his work is designed to create an atmosphere for the expansion of the soul, which we are all about here, without getting caught up in New Age and spiritual propaganda. Now, this is really interesting. Thank you, Krys, for being here. Could you share a little bit about your personal journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited, and thank you all who are going to participate and watch this episode here. As I say often, take what is for you and honor what isn't. But yeah, so my journey, it starts many lifetimes ago, but I'll stick to this one. Long story short, I was just writing something for part of my business just the other day for some different opportunities that are coming up and really reflecting on how I got from there to here. And I remember years ago, do you remember the app called Meetup? There was this app called Meetup where you could like host an event and then like people around your area would like you would literally put it out there and then you would meet up and we'd all have like, whether it was like a bonfire or stargazing. Well, I was on this app back in like 2014, 15, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, I think I'm ready to teach now. I think I'm ready. This is over a decade ago now. And I set my chairs up in my apartment at that time, fully anticipating people showing up to listen to what I have to share. And the day arrived, the time arrived, and no one showed up. So I, in that moment, told myself, I don't care who shows up to listen or to receive whatever I'm sharing, but I know that I'm always going to be there. I'm always going to be sharing and emitting and emanating this frequency. So, that I went from that experience to then realizing, people eventually did show up. People started to listen. I used to write these really elaborate poems and writings on LinkedIn that people really gravitate towards. And I was part of some other free forums that people really just were like, hey, you're onto something. That makes a lot of sense. And so one thing led to the next until I gained confidence to really put myself out there as a leader in a way of this cosmic expansion, you could say. So my journey has been one of trial and error, personal direct experience with multidimensional beings, my star family, very intricate and elaborate astral travel experiences and dreams, and then just sheer grit and tenacity to shift the overall frequency of the planets. Here we are.
Wow. Did you start off, because I know you said in 2015 you were ready to teach at that time, but you were a student of the of what you teach for many years prior. Would you say
Mhm.
that you were always connected to the stars, psychic, and your spiritual gifts, or did you transition along the way?
I have always been connected, but I would say as I progressed and really reframed my viewpoints on reality, I started to develop more awareness, right? More consciousness. I started to get more rooted and grounded in my own personal vibration. But like I was saying, I've had a lot of interactions with different people, but also different beings and both physical and non-physical. You said something that's really important. Was I a student of my own teachings first? Yes, very much. I don't like to share things that I have not experienced directly from my own self. And so I'm always my first teacher and my first student. And so that's kind of my methodology is like, if I've gone through it on some level or have some sort of interaction with it, and I see the benefits of it, I feel confident to elaborate on and share that with whoever's ready to listen. So, yeah, I've always been open minded, even raised Christian. Had a lot of questions for pastors that they did not like, a lot of contradictory beliefs that they couldn't really help to harmonize my own mind. And I really think that my curiosity, my desire to know truth, and something beyond what the outside world was telling me led me to where I am. It led me to the right people, to the right books, to the right events, to the right meditation spots. So yeah, I feel like I've been gently guided my whole life by invisible forces of the best kind. So
You teach something now called ether physics. Is this now? I personally haven't heard of the term, but is this something that you created or has always existed?
so ether physics is my own personal interpretation of a state of awareness that others have come across, whether they've been people like Tesla, Steinmetz, Faraday, Victor Schauberger. and others who have gone into William Reich is another awesome scientist, you could say, ether physician. There's been Marie Curie is another one. There's been men and women who have discovered and realized what I've realized, right? And they call it different things, but it's like the soul gets to a point in its journey where it really does become realized within itself and starts to figure out the frameworks in which it has its experiences in. And I call that ether physics, or the study of the principle of reality, the study of the essence, the principle that sustains everything, right? We call it consciousness, prima matra, the primordial gnosis. There's so many different names for it, but I like to call it ether physics because it's the study of the source and how that is. There's a cool little bird that just flew by. How that's applied in our everyday lives. Yeah. My own personal phrase that others have discovered in their own way too. They call it different things.
So prior to ether physics, what was your experience of reality? Like, what were some common challenges that you face that you see that other people are facing now as self-mastery in this area?
I love this. So prior to really getting a good comprehension of ether physics, I struggled with understanding why things happened, right? I struggled with really seeing the connection between my thoughts to reality, especially if it was like, like if I'd be thinking about something and then maybe a year or two later, I would see it play out. At first, I didn't make that distinct connection, but now I understand the potency of the mind. I really do. Every day, I would say at least 2 to 3 times a day, if not more, something's happening where I'll think something and then there'll be an instant manifestation. Just last night, I was looking for a pen in my room and I said out loud, oh, man, I need a pen. And, I looked, and then literally a pen appeared. It was just the most random, ho-hum, simple pen. It wasn't like this. And I don't even know where it came from. But it's like, that's how my reality is now. But that's from being able to translate and comprehend more levels of information and data, which is really the ether. And so prior to that understanding, reality was seen as like a cause and effect. And I think that's what people struggle with. People struggle with truly understanding that what they're seeing outside of them is a direct reflection of what's happening inside of them for the most part. And I'll also say I struggled with understanding why bad things happen and I was such a good person, right? And I think that's also what a lot of people have a hard time with. They don't understand, they don't see the connection between their own personal vibration, their hidden thoughts, their subconscious, for better or for worse. And they say that God's trying to test them, right? They say the universe is testing them because it's a bad thing. But on the other hand, they say, well, I'm a manifester, but I only manifest the good things, right? So it's like, you're going to accept your power whenever it's what you want to experience. But whenever you don't, when it's something negative, oh no, it's a test from God. It's someone trying to, manipulate you or something. And it's like, what I discovered through ether physics is that we are not only experiencing that that we want to accept, but we also experience what we don't want to accept. We also experience what we resist or what we are indifference to. And so this makes logical sense because in order to have the experience of wanting to experience, in order to have the experience of what you want to experience, you're going to materialize the positive thing and the negative thing because the negative thing defines the positive thing, right? So we are always materializing and manifesting both states of us, the shadow and the light. And what I like to consider is the gray, the middle, right? So like becoming like a gray knight. And the Jedi, like in the Star Wars universe, they have the light and the dark. Well, I consider the gray. I would say I'm a gray knight, a gray Jedi, which is the integration of both the light and the dark and the comprehension that both are relevant. Yeah.
This is something that I feel as you raise your conscious awareness, you come to acceptance and it's full acceptance of the human experience because like you yourself, you can be infinite source and your consciousness is infinite source. But in order to have the human experience, there's always duality. And I remember asking ChatGPT, I said, what's the purpose of reaching this higher state of being? Because I had this point in my journey where I elevated so high, but then I kind of forgot about the human body, right? I was all in the space of like divine unity and love. And connecting with my higher guidance and galactic guides. And I was like, oh my God, I finally found my purpose. But then I was like, why am I still not happy? I had to come back down and realize that the whole purpose of being human is to have experiences. And the whole purpose of us as a soul coming into the human body is to hold space for both the light and the dark. And so the duality or what we experience like extremes of really having euphoric bliss and joy, and at the same time having that extreme like darkness and depression and all of those things, it's because we can feel, it's because
Yeah.
of emotions that we can feel these things, that we can actually truly experience life, right? That we can
Yeah.
truly appreciate life. And so what ChatGPT was saying to me, and I had this aha moment, it was like, when you elevate your consciousness, it's really just to transcend the emotional state, like transcend the stories that you've attached to the emotions that have been
Hmm. Hmm.
creating
Hmm.
the perpetual. If you
Hmm.
stay in that state, it could be considered suffering if you're in that state of suffering.
Yeah.
And to be able to be neutral, like, hold on a second, I'm having an emotion and
Hmm.
it's anger, right?
Hmm.
You're allowing yourself to feel anger, but you're not attaching this is bad or this is good to the anger. You're just noticing I'm
Yeah.
angry and there's a reason why I'm angry.
Hmm. Yeah. I love this so much. So there's a few things I want to highlight is the state of going beyond the contemporary human existence, right? So if we understand ourselves as the principle just means the isness. It just is, right? It's the substratum that we are, point blank period. And so from that, in order for there to be something, the no thing, right? So the no thing, the nothing, the no thing, the pure potential is going to potentialize itself into literally everything. And so we can shift our focus from euphoric, full comprehension of the isness, and then realize that we also, in order to know that, we came here to experience the limited expression of it, right? So it's like that limited expression, at least in one form, is called human. Another form is called rock. Another form it's called turtle. Another form is called extraterrestrial, but like these are all points of focus of the source, so that the source is not necessarily knowing itself, but it's doing what source does. It's being, it's expressing, right? It's experiencing. So that was my first thing. And then yes, to the emotions, it's like something I'm practicing right now is I just learned this a couple of days ago, which is really cool. We're talking about it. Is there is no real emotional education anymore, not to the degree that I think would be really beneficial to people. And what I want to share is this process I take myself through now, and that's like first, emotional distance, like you're saying, you become angry, you feel anger, you're in a tough conversation, someone says something you don't like, you feel that trigger come up, creating that emotional distance and observing, which is exactly what you're saying, right? And then through that observation, you can witness yourself without being and taking on that. You don't become the anger, right? You don't start speaking from the anger or the frustration. And then after that, you're going to like move into your breath, right? So now you're practicing breathing in a certain way. We won't get into it now, but that's helping you regulate your nervous system in this heated moment. And then you're going to like anticipate how the other person's going to respond, right? So it's like, okay, I am creating space. I'm practicing this breathing, so I'm regulated. Now, what response is this person going to give me, right? So you're kind of like observing that situation. And then from this state of calm, you're able to then hold in your mind a game plan or a focus point, right? So like, what is the overall goal of this conversation right now? And so now your emotions are serving that focus point instead of your emotions hijacking your whole entire experience. You now are using those emotions to stay focused on like, okay, I'm talking to Susan because I really want Susan to hang out with me or whatever it is, and she's being crazy about it. So instead of like getting caught up in that, you're like, okay, you just think more clearly. So yeah, I just wanted to go into that a little bit.
So instead of responding, you're crazy, you can respond from like, I really would love to hang out with you. Like,
Right, because you understand the deeper context and you're not that charge isn't there anymore because you've practiced these four steps. For me, this has been a life this I'm still practicing. It's a game changer. So thank you for bringing that up.
oh, you're welcome. I feel that as well. I mean, I feel like it's a evolving process. And I feel that
Hmm.
a lot with my kids as well, because
Hmm.
kids, they express in the moment. They
Do you
don't
have
have to,
kiddos? You have kiddos?
oh yeah, I have two, about to turn 2 years old, and the other's 3.5.
Oh my
So
goodness. Yeah. Mine are
yeah.
downstairs. I don't know if you can hear them, but yeah.
How old are your kids?
3 and 8. Yeah, the
Okay.
two girls, yeah, 3 and 8. So they're downstairs. But yes, go on. Yep.
How I feel like boys and girls are different because I have boys and I keep saying my boys are rambunctious and they're like, well, I don't know because I've never really hung out around boys, but like my perspective, I had all sisters. Like I'm one of 7 kids and 6 of
Wow.
us are girls and the last one is a boy.
Wow.
The age where I didn't really hang out with my brother, but observing my sisters, I was like, we pretty well behaved, at least from my memory. I was
My
like,
girls can be really intense. But yeah, you were saying like kids express in the moment, right? And it's like there's not a lot of education around how to handle that, right? I mean, maybe here and there to some degree, but it's like we need a whole revolution on emotions and really understanding how to experience them, right? Because I know whenever my kiddos get emotional, there's almost not like it's even with these techniques, I'm still like, I don't even know. I don't know what to do. So
yes, because they have like an underlying need and they just want what they want. Like yesterday,
exactly.
my son was trying to climb up on a chair
Hmm.
and I took the chair away.
He
He
lost it.
hysteric. And I was like, no. And you know what I did? I just hugged him and I was like, I know you're having big feelings. And I was like rocking him back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like you just, yeah. There's so many different directions you could go with it, right? With the kiddos, but they are good teachers and knowing how to. I think as parents, it's important to practice emotional regulation as much as possible. I mean, I know these things again are not readily available in society, especially like public schools and all that. Like we don't we homeschool, so it's important nonetheless. It really, really is.
Yeah. Do you feel like it really is about reparenting yourself first? Like from that reparented state, you have greater awareness on how to interact with other people with emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And it's like even that phrase, right? Like reparenting. So behind that is like, well, why do we need to reparent? And that just tells us that the core issue is that we weren't given the correct knowledge or the right information or skills to really thrive in the way that we all probably want to as adults. And so it's like for me, I think a lot of what I'm doing is helping to bring back these fundamental principles of ourselves in the greater expanse of reality that just simply are not taught and not spoken on. And so whenever by the time, my kids and your kids and whoever else's kids get older, they won't have to reparent because they'll have places where they can properly learn about the framework of their own mind, their consciousness, their souls, their body, and they'll be self-regulating, right? So, but to answer your question, yes, definitely it's a lot about reparenting because society has not been structured to provide proper wellness and proper well-being, and I know this with the work that you do, it's pretty evident. So
Do you experience where I would call it like a spectrum, where there's emotional distance to the point where you're like so emotionally closed off that you don't experience
hmm
emotions or you're
hmm
to experience emotions to being too sensitive to emotions? And how can somebody start to, I guess, find that sweet spot of like, okay, now I know how to regulate my emotions?
I think that sweet spot comes with practice. I think everything's a skill, whether you're learning how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, tie your shoe, or drive a car. These are all skills that you learn over time. Meditation is a skill. Astral projection, it's a skill. Remote viewing, teleportation, these are all skills. So we're going back again to the fundamental principles of skill sets that have been missing. So per this conversation, I would say in order for someone to really get into that zone, that gray area, that sweet spot where they are aware, but they're not controlled by their emotions. That's the key. And that comes through practice. It comes through going through your life, having a moment where someone's acting up or you're feeling something, and you got to create inner space. Like that's the first thing. That's like the very first thing is learning how to create inner space. What is that? That's you can feel your blood start to, your heart starts to beat faster, your breath starts to change. All these physiological signs tell you that you're feeling a deep emotion. And so when you start to feel those sensations in your physical body, okay, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, here comes our practice time. And in that moment, it's a breath. You know, you're breathing in, you exhale out, and before you don't inhale in immediately, you just pause. And it's really in that pause where your nervous system starts to de-escalate. Your muscles start to relax. So that's like the first thing. It's like becoming aware. Then after that, you'll start to realize that you can think more clearly, that you can hold, that there is space for you to hold that feeling in clear thought. But most of us are so used to the feelings here, and then all of our thoughts just start to go from that feeling, right? So we got to get from, okay, here's that energy. Oof, okay, pause, become aware, let your nervous system calm down, and then your core need or your core expression still might be there, but now you can articulate in a way that's coming from a deeper, more grounded space, you know? Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to be like, I'm not angry, I'm not upset. No, I'm not. It's like, so we have to accept it. We have to fully integrate these emotions. We have to say yes, not I am angry, but I recognize that I feel anger. You see anger as something that is a wave pattern in your field, because that's really essentially what it is. All these feelings and emotions are literally energy and motion. So it's like they have their own waveform. And for me, it's easier to understand that, okay, there's an intense waveform in my etheric field right now. And if I can recognize that, then now there's that distance between here's me and here's it. And so now I can observe it. And so what I teach people is we don't, like with pain, we don't want to resist, but we also don't want to force the change, right? So it really is that sweet spot. Because if you're resisting how you're feeling, like you're just completely denying, like, oh, I'm fine, everything's good, then it's only going to build more and more and more. But then if you force yourself to feel better, like, okay, I'm just going to go put the song on because it makes me feel happy. It's like, that's a force. You haven't really dealt with the issue. So the key here is to recognize, accept, and that creates integration, because then you're not pushing it away. You're not trying to force it. It just is. And then from there, you can start to breathe differently. And then, yeah, the process goes on from there. But does that make sense? Does that feel resonant?
Yes, it does. The acceptance, I realized at some point too, the acceptance is that like source makes no mistakes. So what you're feeling is valid and what you're experiencing is valid. And so you are like, your frequency is playing out in these, and sometimes it's like loops, right? Because we are
Mm,
programmed in certain ways, they're just looping. The fear is looping, thus creating
mm,
emotion. And then the emotion exacerbates the loop again and
mhm,
again.
mhm,
So
mhm.
being able to regulate our nervous system and notice, okay, what is the underlying need? Because the need of either safety, of recognition, of love, of just saying like, yes, I am angry, and there's nothing wrong with that because there's a
Mhm,
lot of shame
mhm.
around our anger, being told like we are not allowed to.
You're all love and light. Like, no, please stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that actually is what the whole shadow work is supposed to be. We are meant to see what is in the shadow, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And really, what the shadow is in this space, the shadow doesn't have a negative connotation. The shadow is just what is hidden from sight.
mhm,
So, even being able to understand that the shadow is not a bad thing. And this is something early in the spiritual journey where it's like, because you were told your negative emotions are bad, therefore the shadow emotions that come up are also bad. And by placing a label of good or bad, exacerbates the story of you're bad, you're not good enough,
right.
correct, right? But
Exactly.
being able to integrate and say, I'm having an emotion. It's not bad. I just notice I have an underlying need. And when I recognize that need, it dissolves and it integrates and it moves back into that neutral state.
Right. Right. Yeah, I love that so much. And again, these are skills, right? These are things that with proper guidance and really mental discipline is what it, at least for in my framework of experience and teaching, it's like in order to go through that process that you just beautifully described, there has to be a ability to hold those thoughts and hold those principles. And what I find people have a tough time with is being disciplined enough to actually stay consistent with it, right? Because people just they don't want to deal with the shadow. They don't want to deal with the fact that, maybe I do have this feeling and it keeps coming up. And it's like, why does it keep coming up? And so they keep kind of going through that loop that you're talking about. And so they just kind of give up instead of sticking with it and having the discipline to go through that process, like you said, to recognize it. What's the underlying need? And it's like we have to make this stuff important, right? We can't just skip over and jump into ether physics. Ether physics can help for sure. It'll give you a framework as to the energy and how it all works. But no matter what, you still have to put forth your own effort and discipline to create the environment within your own consciousness to be free from all these negative thoughts you have about yourself or whatever it is, and see the shadow as something as a part of you and beneficial, not something that is detrimental. It's only detrimental when it's misunderstood and you have yet to really, like, it becomes worse the more you try to push it away and you call it bad and you label it as a negative thing. But you integrate it, it becomes a friend, becomes an ally, you know?
Do you see it as, because this is the way I see it, it's almost like a series of, the chakras, right?
Mm,
You're dealing with the emotions and the root chakra and the sense of safety and all your needs are met. And when we reach the ether physics phase, it's about the crown chakra, the higher consciousness,
mm.
the world above. So we're really just leveling up through the chakras. And sometimes and it's all a balance, right? You never hear, oh, one chakra is overactive. It's all like the chakras have to be balanced.
I love that. So it's funny because I don't think a lot of people know this, and it's a little controversial, but I personally, I don't work with the chakras, although I comprehend their implications. And with that analogy you use, it's absolutely perfect. But what I realized, and this might be something fun for you to explore too, is like there is like this is how I see it now. It's like a sphere, right? Within that sphere, we have all kinds of different frequencies: purple, blue, green, orange, red. Those are all the light, this at least the seven main colors that we can visualize or that we can see, right? And at any given time, we are fluctuating between and within this sphere. And so there's been moments that maybe the most unconscious people have had really enlightening experiences, right? Maybe they were out going for a walk one time and something really cool happened. Like, I don't know, they saw, I don't know, I'm thinking like a bird, and a bird did something. They're like, whoa, oh my gosh. And like kind of brought them into that frequency for a moment, right? But in their everyday life, they're operating more in that survival and fear base, right? Which would be the red and everything. So the only reason I bring that up is because it's a fluctuation. And yes, I think what happens is we begin to be more resonant in one frequency than another. So whether that is, like you're saying, that the root chakra or the frequency of red and what it represents, we can find ways to, it's like once you understand what that energy is and what's meant to express and share with you, then you can move into the next harmonic or the next frequency bandwidth, right? And you kind of integrate these things as you go along, and they're always influencing. Wow, they're always influencing each other, right? Like your higher self, your crown, this etheric nature is always there, and that's what I want to share with people. It's like even if you haven't done the deep shadow work and everything, when you learn ether physics and you understand these principles, it's actually going to make that shadow work easier because you have a deeper understanding of something, a deeper understanding of how it all works, right? Do you see where I'm going with it?
Yeah. So the higher consciousness is really being able to see the bigger picture. Almost like you can see the matrix. You can see why the matrix is playing out the way it's playing out. And because
Yes,
you can see it, you can kind of hack the game.
exactly. It's like exactly because that's exactly it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like because I see people I've worked with, they're so focused on, survival, trying to thrive, survive. And I get that because society, yeah, we all already know, right? It's meant to make us feel like, and but what I want to share with people is like if you're just focusing on, it's like if you have a car and you want to drive this beautiful car, but you're only focusing on the steering wheel. That's it. And you're like just your hands are on the steering wheel and you're turning and you're like, why isn't it going? And it's like you're so focused on that steering wheel. And it's like, hold on, there's some other pieces you're missing here. That's the gas pedal. And you need the key and make sure you have oil in the engine. And so what I feel cosmic frequency does and ether physics does is it says, yes, we're going to address the car, the steering wheel. Yes, that's important. But these other pieces will help you understand how the steering wheel connects to the brake and the accelerator and how that's connected to the engine and how that oil is a big part of that and how that, you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like when we have the broader understanding of something, then the smaller the pieces make more sense. I call this holistic spirituality. So instead of trying to heal from a place of individualizing parts, we expand and we say, okay, what is this? What are we? We are a soul. We're a consciousness. What does that mean? Well, it means we're unlimited. Okay, great. So what do I do with that? That means your thoughts do this and da da da. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you realize, oh my God. So that's why I keep manifesting this kind of experience. Instead of going from, why do I keep manifesting this experience? Okay, maybe I should, just solely focus on that. It's like you gotta expand so that you can see.
How would you say that external sources impact your personal journey? Because when you talk about the car, right, the car could be us. It's our body. We're driving this car. Now there's a road. And if there's road
Mm-hmm.
work going on, we can't go a certain direction. And if there's another car coming our way, we might crash into that. So how important are external influences on our personal journey?
I love this question. I have to answer in different parts because on from one state of mind, I would say that the external is only a reflection of our internal. And so there is, well, okay, there's a road, but that road could be a really smooth road with windy curves and beautiful scenery, or it could be a road with potholes, right? And it's just really bumpy. And that's all going to be a result of our core or, our vibration, more or less. And so that external will be reflecting back to me something within me to a degree. That's one way you could look at it. But I could also say that it is true that there are things that are set up to intentionally try to hinder one's etheric connection or one's connection to source, really, which is themselves. I think of this example like going to the gas station and you step outside of your car, you push the button, you take the thing, and the music starts to play or some news thing starts to play that has nothing to do with you. It's just noise, right? So that external thing is directly impacting one's consciousness because it doesn't allow someone to really settle in their own energy. You have really awful EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies that are rampant, radio waves, microwaves. All these external things are structured in a way that doesn't let the aura breathe. The clothes we wear, the kind of buildings that we have, all these external things have a direct impact on our consciousness, and it makes it even more important to do things like we're doing here, right? I'm going to be building star temples. That beautiful scenery you have in your background that's how things should be in everyday homes, not squares and rectangles. So there is a direct impact from the external world on one's psyche, but it also gives us an opportunity to then create the experiences we want. So if I don't like what I'm seeing, if I don't like what I'm experiencing, I'm the only one who can change it. Now, I will meet people outside of me that'll help bring in the resources, bring in the connections to help bring that change forward. Yes, that'll happen, but it can't happen if I'm not in the frequency bandwidth to experience those things. You see? So, yeah, that's a beautiful question. I hope I answered it thoroughly.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a part of something else that was coming up was like, what are your beliefs with your collective experience? Like if you are on a set timeline, right? Like, and there's a lot of talk about jumping to your highest timeline. And really, for me, sometimes that sounds like spiritual bypassing all the lessons that you're
I
here to
knew, I knew you were going to go there. Yeah, yeah. Keep going, keep going.
I'm interested on what your thoughts are if there are certain limitations placed on our journey because these are lessons we have to go through. And what are your thoughts on like the whole law of attraction? You can manifest $1 million and anything that you want.
Yeah. So let's talk timelines. Time. So short and sweet. Time is not something that happens ab extra to the consciousness. Time is not something that happens out there and influences us. It is a direct experience that comes with being aware. And so what that means is we are all our own timeline. And essentially we are unrolling or unraveling, unfolding our experiences based on the thoughts, the feelings, and ideas that we're holding at any given moment. So at any given moment, you're going to move into the vibration experience that you are in resonance with. That is to say, it's not like here's the divine timeline. This is the positive timeline. Calling all star seeds and light workers to the positive timeline. It's like, no, it doesn't exist out there. So what happens is as you curate your consciousness, as you expand your awareness, as you develop different perceptions of yourself, break through your own limits, and really start to progress as a soul, you are naturally going to have a higher experience, but you're only going to be experiencing yourself again. But now with a more in-depth comprehension of what you like and what you want to explore and what you want to experience. So whenever I hear people say, yes, like, oh, we're ascending to the fifth dimension, it's like, again, timelines and dimensions are not external. They're states of mind. It's like saying, what state are you in, Nikki?
Florida.
You're in, oh yeah, okay, you're in Florida, right? There's not a line between Florida and Georgia that says like Florida is here, Georgia is here. It doesn't exist, right? So these dimensions and these timelines are ways that we try to make sense of our own selves. I forgot the second part of your question, but I really liked it. So can you please repeat it if you haven't forgotten already?
Yeah. So like
Okay.
when people say like you can manifest $1 million and you can manifest things out of thin air, how does that relate to our concept of timelines when we're like jumping timelines and all of that stuff?
Yeah. So I feel that is true. And everything happens out of thin air because everything it comes from the ether, everything comes from the source. There's pure potential, a consciousness, a soul, which is really the source that's it's an aspect of the ether of the source that's become self-realized to a degree, starts to focus. And as it focuses, it starts to generate things, starts to generate experiences. And so as we go along our journey, going from, okay, you know what, I'm sick of living in poverty to now starting to think in concept of affluence or excuse me opulence, you start to then generate experiences for yourself that are in alignment with that. Now what does that look like in regards to timeline? We would call this like a quantum leap, as I've heard people say. It's like you go from, last year I was sleeping in my car, this year I'm living in this new house and da 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 da. It's not like you moved timelines, you shifted your frequency and now you're a match for the experiences that you're having. So that $1 million, that new home is really just reflecting the thoughts and choices that you decided to focus on. Like timeline jumping is really about frequency management. That's really all it is. It's not like there's like when they say like the new earth is on a higher timeline, again, it's not like there's someone doing this. It's not like there's someone like taking humanity and being like, plop, here you guys go. No, you have to develop the consciousness that unfolds a more harmonious human experience, right? That we would call New Earth. So it's always an inside job. It really is.
Yeah, and that makes sense because once your frequency shifts, like the internal thoughts and beliefs that you have will also affect your frequency. So if you're able to consciously like shift your thoughts and beliefs, you show up differently. And that's the manifestation process we all talk about. It's not just sitting here and waiting for something to happen. You are the co-creator, meaning you are
Yes.
a participant in your own life.
Yes.
So if you believe you are like affluent and you believe that you will achieve this, your actions reflect someone who is in that state of being already.
Exactly.
What does that person do on a day-to-day basis? They are not sleeping in their car, they're actively like putting out content or they're
Mhm.
actively searching for better opportunities and things like that.
I love that. It's exactly it. It's like becoming a conscious participant in your own becoming. That is one of my most favorite things. And I feel like that is a golden nugget that I want people to remember. It's like, yes, magic is real. I teach this kind of magic, but it's like really magic is just knowing how things work. That's what it is. And so no, you're not just gonna sit there under a tree and be like, Om Namo, da, blah, blah, blah. Like a car's not gonna pop up. It's like, yeah, do that, shift your frequency, but then get your butt up, go get on your computer and look up cars. You got to put in the forward momentum in order for things to take place. Things don't just like happen. You bring them forth into your reality because you make it happen essentially, right? So I love that, becoming an active participant in your own becoming and not just love and lighting your way through things. And I want to use this example too. It's like people are so afraid to say the truth. They're so afraid to say, yes, right now I only have whatever amount of money because they think somehow that's making them live in a lack mentality. This is what I'll say. Same thing with the emotions. You have to accept the fact of where you are. You have to, because until you accept that, okay, this is happening, what are you doing? You're resisting it, which is doing what? Creating more of it. So I'm applying the same things we did with emotions to money and all that in manifestation. The true power of manifestation is in understanding, one, how your thoughts work, and two, the acceptance of where you are. So if you are someone who wants to make more money or whatever it is, accept the fact that right now you only have this much. but don't give your energy and your emotions to that. You just acknowledge it. Cool. My bank account looks like this today. End of story. You're not going to sit there and be like, oh my God, this is so awful. Why does this happen? Because that's going to continue to feed that energy. You just acknowledge it. Cool. I'm going to focus on being affluent and taking steps. And then that's where you get excited. That's where you feel your emotion and your energy get to, right? And then you get a bill in the mail. Cool. Back over here. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Someone knocks on your door. Cool. Accept it. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you accept these things. And then as you're building your newfound, what I call etheric pulse rhythm over here, that's sooner or later, it has to take shape. It has to come to fruition. And it will. And that's where in the Bible it says, like, have the faith of a mustard seed. It's like this, oh man, I want to get into like the science of like how that works, but we won't right now. But it's like when you continue to feed a certain thought and idea, it has no choice but to come into fruition. And sooner or later, it will be the dominant frequency instead of that experience you don't want anymore. So that's the key. It's like accept, but then focus on what you want to move into.
Thank you for sharing that, because that is so powerful. It's where we place our attention, where we place our frequency is where we will continue to expand in that state,
Right.
and be open to receiving things that just magically come.
Oh, and they do, and they will.
Do.
They will. It's so cool. It's so, I'm telling you, it's so cool. It's so
Do
cool.
you want to share a recent like magical experience?
Sure. Yeah, I will. So I've known that I wanted to expand my work, right? And what I want to do in the world. And that has been a really big focus on mine. And because I know cosmic frequency has helped hundreds, if not thousands of people by now. And I feel like the world is ready for this message, for ether physics, for the knowledge of the cosmos again, right? For these really transformational things. So I've been focusing on this, letting it go, focus on it. I get a friend request on Facebook and I see this person's banner and it's like Forbes, Times Magazine, USA Today. And I'm like, who is this? And they reached out to me and then she goes, have you had any really big like PR, like public experiences, right? I'm like, well, I did an interview with Guy. And she's like, no, I mean like really big. And I'm like, wait, who are you? And how did you find me? And like, where's this coming from? And so she reaches out and she's like, you've been in my friend suggestion for weeks. I felt like I needed to reach out to you. It turns out to be the exact person that I've been looking for to help expand cosmic frequency, like in a really, really beautiful way. And so that magic, because like how and where, but I also understand now how and where. But it happens like when you least expect it. It happens just like I'm just randomly doing my work, answering messages, and like I see this, I'm like, oh my God. So that was really, really cool. And this kind of stuff, like it really is possible to live this magical life and have things show up, but you have to let yourself be reborn many different times. You got to continue to shed and to dive in deeper and to expand more. It's like it's not like oh, I'm enlightened, I know I'm the source, that's it. It's like, no. I wish it was that easy. It's a continuous level of self-mastery and refinement. So
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so excited for you. That is
thank
definitely
you.
a magical experience.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, it just was expectedly unexpected, excited anticipation. And like, it's really cool whenever someone approaches you, right? Because it's almost like the universe, as some people would say, being like, hey, what's up? I see you. How can I help? So
Yeah. So I guess one last question because we're at time. Um,
really,
Yeah. And my last question was like, is being specific important? Like, did you hold that vision or did you hold a certain frequency and the experience came to you? You didn't know it was going to be Forbes. You just knew it was going to be something really big or global.
it's a little bit of both. So the PR firm that I'm working with, so they work with many different people, like literally all over the world. So Forbes is just one of them, but I know what I want to do in this world. And I'm very clear with that in my frequency, in my heart, in my intention. I have specifics that I do want to accomplish, but I'm open to how and who shows up to help bring those specifics forward. So it's like I know in my soul what I'm here to do, and I do think about this. I do meditate. I do practice visualizations and really getting into the inner space or the creator zone, as I call it. But how it shows up, who it shows up through, when it happens is not up. It's not up to me, it's not up to Krys. It's up to really the mathematics of the ether or matrix, you could say, how things really start to align that then bring that forward. But I will say this, people talk about like divine timing. divine timing is actually mathematical. There is a mathematical principle behind divine timing, and it has everything to do with like your torus flow. And it's a whole science, but it's a real thing. It's not just like airy fairy magic. Like there's a way in which you can understand this stuff and then actually apply it to see the results. So a little bit of both.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. For those of us who are listening in and are interested in connecting with you, what is the best way to connect with you?
So right now, the best way is my Instagram is Krys, or as Cosmic Frequency. Frequency does not have a second E in it. But then I also have my website, cosmicfrequency.org. And then my email, as far as like direct, if you really want to reach out and like, hey, I have a question, how can I work with you? That's Chris@cosmicfrequency.org is like the direct contact. But as far as like content and what I'm sharing, Instagram and my website are the places that I direct people to right now.
Beautiful. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Chris, for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I hope I answered everything. I know it can get really expansive really quickly, but I think that you would not have me here if you could not hold that same frequency. So
I
kudos.
agree.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick.